There's something fascinating in how Japanese media depicts World War II and how those depictions have shifted over the years. Exploring those themes in Japanese media could be a multi-hour video all on its own, and honestly, I only know bits and pieces of the broad trends from a few major creators and works. P-47 is an example of the murky relationship Japan has with World War II media. It's a game about an American plane. The cover seems to have it in the Pacific Theater of Operation, but in-game, it's all about shooting Germans. They've got the dominant world power who's seen as the victor over Japan, with the symbology of Japan's involvement in the war placed in the most visible position, and then using villains who could be safely distanced from Japan. It's an interesting mix. The P-47 Thunderbolt was one of the major planes in World War II. It was built as a dual-purpose bomber and fighter, and as such it was a very large, kinda slow, kinda poorly maneuverable plane. But its bulkiness gave it quite a bit of durability, making it into a reliable workhorse of a plane. The game P-47 was originally an arcade title developed by NMK. This is probably NMK's best known game, so that should tell you something about how successful they were in arcades. NMK ported P-47 to the PC Engine themselves, and they only developed one other PC Engine game, which is another port of one of their arcade games. There's also the first PC Engine game published by ACOM, a company that is extra confusing because there's two game developers operating simultaneously under that name. This ACOM is not the one that made Viewpoint. This ACOM publishes a tiny handful of PC Engine games, and then makes a different shoot-'em-up for the PC Engine. So there's a bit of a motley crew behind P-47. As I mentioned, your goal in the game is to fly all over Europe and North Africa, killing as many Germans as possible. There's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, and button 2 fires your main gun, while button 1 fires your special weapons. You don't start out with any special weapons. You acquire those from the capsules dropped by small helicopters. Now some of you might be going, helicopters? There weren't any combat helicopters in World War II, and Germany didn't have any helicopters at all. Well, I'm going to let you know a little secret here. P-47 may not be completely historically accurate. They might have taken 1 or 200 small liberties with the setting. Just look at this stage where you're attacking a battleship. That's not a German battleship, that's an American battleship. Has your P-47 turned traitor? Has an American battleship been taken over by the Kriegsmarine? Don't look for any story here to help you out. In fact, the story in the manual only tells you that it's 1944, World War II is going on, and that you're flying a P-47D on the Western Front. And that last part isn't even true. The 6th stage takes place in Egypt. Egypt's not on the Western Front, and the Germans had to pull out of Egypt in 1942. This shoot-'em-up where one plane takes on the entire Luftwaffe is just getting less and less realistic. As for the power-ups that the helicopters drop, you've got bombs. These are pretty good for attacking anything below you. And if you collect a second bomb icon, you can drop an additional bomb. Since you can collide with terrain in P-47, the bombs are a real workhorse secondary weapon. On the other hand, if you're dealing with the air, then there's missiles. You get those from the M icon. This fires a spread of missiles in front of you, and initially it's 3, but collecting another M will get you up to 5. The bombs and the missiles are the only secondary weapons that power up like this, and they only do it once. The T icon gets you a turret. It fires a spread of 2 shots in the direction that you're moving the plane. Oddly enough, even though it looks kind of puny, the rapid rate of fire actually makes it dish out more damage than any other weapon. It's just difficult to aim it and dodge bullets. Finally, there are explosive shells. These fire straight out from your craft, and the initial shell does more damage than any other single shot, but it is fairly slow. After it hits something, or it travels far enough, it explodes into shrapnel that goes in all directions. There's a few other icons. S's are for speed up. If you find one of the incredibly rare C icons, it gives you another continue. And of course, 1-ups give you extra lives. If you get hit by anything, you're killed instantly, and another plane just flies in to take your place. You lose all of your speed power-ups this way, as well as any weapon upgrades that you might have had, but you still have the same secondary weapon. If you continue, the same thing happens. You just fly in right there. You don't lose any progress. You have 3 continues unless you find additional ones while you play. There is a cheat code to give you 8 continues, useful for learning the game, as well as this cheat code which enables a level select, but if you use it, then you only have 1 credit. And speaking of game over, the game over song is weirdly long. You'll sit with the game over text for about 20 or 30 seconds before it goes back to the title screen. Of course, like most PC Engine games, you can just reset it by hitting run and select at the same time. Naturally, when you reach the end of a stage, there's a boss, and these are pretty standard war machines that take a bunch of hits. If you can't do enough damage to it quickly enough, then it just leaves, denying you the points for defeating it. The response to P-47 among PC Engine fans seems to be very, muted. Though I did find some of the most fun comments that I've encountered in a while. The arcade game got a port, so somebody must have wanted it. I can't say if this game is good or bad, it just is. Even the few people who mentioned liking it as a kid don't seem to be especially enthusiastic. And there are some good things about P-47. Things do get pretty hectic on later stages. It's kind of neat when a giant barrage of missiles is fired at you and you have to weave in between them. But overall, P-47's kinda blah. It's not bad enough to earn any real hate, but it doesn't do anything interesting enough to get you excited. It's a very basic shoot-'em-up with no style or flair. This is the kind of game that nobody's gonna get excited for, won't be anybody's favorite, and really just fills out the library.